like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
So you've been seeing these headlines about a new virus outbreak in China, right? And understandably, you're curious, maybe even a little concerned, right? After everything with COVID, you've sent over a few news articles all about this human metapneumovirus, HMPV for short, and you want to know, like, what's the deal? Is this something to worry about? We're going to take a deep dive today and figure it all out.
Yeah, it seems like every other week there's a new virus to worry about. HMPV, though, it's actually not new at all.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while, causing, those sniffles and coughs. But only now is it really making headlines.
Yeah, it's true. This isn't like some alien virus we've never seen before. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is HMPV? How is it different from like a common cold?
Well, like the common cold, HMPV is a respiratory virus. It was actually first discovered back in the 1950s, but it took scientists a while to realize just how common it is.
So it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. Part of the problem is the symptoms of HMPV are so similar to other respiratory viruses, cough, runny nose, fever, the usual. So it's easy to just think, oh, I have a cold.
Right. So it's probably been misdiagnosed a lot. But if it's just another cold, why are we hearing so much about it now? Is it because of this outbreak in China?
That's definitely part of it. But we also have to remember respiratory viruses tend to be seasonal. They're more active in like the winter and early spring.
Makes sense.
So we're seeing a surge in cases in China right now.
Yeah.
Probably because of, the time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe because COVID restrictions have eased up. So people are just interacting more.
Right, like a perfect storm. But some of these articles you sent, they mentioned some pretty scary stuff. Overwhelmed hospitals, even crematories. Some people are saying that China's declared a state of emergency. Should we be worried?
I get it. It's easy to feel anxious after what we went through with COVID.
Yeah.
But information, especially online, it can spread so fast. And it's not always accurate, right?
Yeah, we saw that with the whole infodemic thing.
Exactly. As far as I know, there's no official confirmation of a state of emergency. And while China is seeing a lot of cases, it's important to, stick to reliable sources of information. Don't jump to conclusions. Wait for the facts.
So deep breaths, everyone. Don't panic just yet. Okay, so we know what HMPV is. We know why it's in the news now. But what can we actually do about it? Is there a cure? A vaccine? Some magic pill we can take?
Well, unfortunately, no. There's no specific antiviral or vaccine for HMPV yet. But the good news is a lot of the things we were doing for COVID, they work for HMPV too.
You mean like washing our hands, wearing masks, staying home when we're sick?
Exactly. All those basic things can really help to slow the spread.
So it's kind of like COVID 2.0, but hopefully without the lockdown.
Hopefully. And it's important to remember, most people who get HMPV, they just have mild symptoms. They recover fine without any problems.
Right.
There are some groups, though, who are more at risk.
The articles mention young children, older adults, and anyone with a weakened immune system, right?
That's right. They're more likely to develop complications like bronchitis or pneumonia.
So those folks really need to be extra careful. Okay, so we've covered the basics, what HMPV is, why it's spreading in China, and that those same COVID precautions still apply. But there's a lot more to learn about this virus, and that's what we'll get into in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll look at some of the research and see what scientists are discovering about HMPV. It's going to get really interesting, so stay tuned.
Okay, so we've got the HMPV basics down. But you sent over some research papers too, not just those news articles. So I'm guessing you want to go a little deeper.
Yeah, the news is, well, it's just the tip of the iceberg. These research papers, they highlight how tricky HMPV really is. One of the papers you sent, it pointed out something really interesting. Most people get infected with HMPV by the time they're 5 years old, but it can actually reinfect you throughout your life.
Wait a minute. So it's not like you get it once and you're done. You can get HMPV multiple times.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Ugh, that's not great.
Oh.
And to make things even more complicated, the symptoms can vary a lot from person to person, even from one infection to the next.
So some people might barely even notice they have it, while others are like really sick.
Yeah, exactly. Some people might just have a sniffle, and others could have, wheezing, trouble breathing.
So it's kind of unpredictable, like a wildcard virus. This one study you sent even mentioned that HMPV can trigger asthma attacks in people who already have asthma.
Yeah, that's a serious concern. And it shows that, we need to understand the full impact of this virus, not just those initial symptoms, it's those potential long-term effects too. There's still so much we don't know about HMPV.
Which is why research is so important, right? One of the articles you sent, it talked about how scientists are trying to develop a vaccine. But it sounds like it's been pretty tough going so far.
Yeah, developing a vaccine for HMPV, it's challenging for a couple of reasons. First of all, the virus, it's constantly evolving. So creating a vaccine that provides long-lasting protection, that's really difficult.
Like trying to hit a moving target.
Exactly. And the second challenge is, well, HMPV infects young children so often. Their immune systems are, kind of primed to respond to it already. So it's tricky to make a vaccine that's safe and effective for kids that young.
Makes sense. You don't want to cause more problems than you solve. But the article did say there's been some progress, right?
Yeah, there have been some promising developments lately. Researchers are trying different approaches, and there are a few HMPV vaccine candidates that are already in clinical trials.
That's good to hear. Hopefully we'll have a vaccine sooner rather than later. But until then, it seems like, it's all about prevention. Hand washing, masking, social distancing, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, for now, those basic measures are still our best bet. But it's important to remember that prevention, it goes beyond just individual actions, right? It's also about making changes at a societal level to address those underlying factors that make us vulnerable to outbreaks in the first place.
You mean like improving public health infrastructure, investing in research, addressing health inequities?
Exactly. Those are all crucial pieces of the puzzle. We can't just focus on treating the symptoms. We have to get at those root causes.
It's like that saying, right? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. But in this case, it's more like give a population access to health care, and you protect them for a lifetime.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
It really shows how important it is to take a holistic approach to public health. We can't just react to outbreaks. We need to invest in those systems and the infrastructure that will actually prevent them from happening.
It's about playing the long game, not just looking for quick fixes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about recognizing that our health is all interconnected. What affects one person, one community, it can quickly spread to others. We saw that with COVID, and we're seeing it again with HMPV.
Right, like we're all in this together. We have to work together to create a healthier future for everyone.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another interesting aspect of HMPV. You sent a paper about the link between climate change and the spread of respiratory viruses.
Oh, yeah, that's where things get really interesting. I've been seeing more and more about how climate change is impacting health. So what's the connection to HMPV?
Well, as the climate changes, we're seeing these shifts in weather patterns, rising temperatures, more extreme weather events. And these changes, they can create conditions where these viruses can spread more easily.
So it's not just the virus itself, but the environment it lives in.
Yeah, kind of like how a plant needs the right soil and sunlight to grow. And unfortunately, climate change is creating an environment where a lot of viruses, including HMPV, are likely to thrive.
So what can we even do about that? Can we even fight a virus when the climate itself is working against us?
That's a big question, and leads to a whole other discussion about how we prepare for a future where these kinds of outbreaks might become even more common. What strategies can we use to mitigate those risks?
Okay. That sounds like a perfect segue into part 3 of this deep dive. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and tackle those big questions. Okay, so we've talked about how HMPV is this, tricky virus, and how climate change could make things even worse. No easy answers there. So where do we go from here? How do we get ready for a future with, maybe more outbreaks like this?
It's a lot to think about, yeah. But the good news is a lot of the things we can do to tackle HMPV, they're also things that will just make us more resilient in general. It's not just about this one virus, right?
Right. So it's like by preparing for HMPV, we're also kind of preparing for whatever else might come along.
Exactly. And one of the most important things we can do is to strengthen our public health infrastructure. What are the reports you sent? It talked about how countries with really good surveillance systems, they were able to detect and respond to HMPV outbreaks much more effectively.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you can't really fight it. But what does that actually look like? Like, what kind of investments do we need to make?
Well, it means things like improving disease tracking, investing in lab capacity, making sure public health agencies have the resources and the staff they need to respond quickly.
So it's not just about having the latest technology. It's about having the right people and systems in place, too.
Exactly. And it's also about making sure those systems are accessible to everyone, regardless of, where they live or how much money they make. One of those papers you sent, it talked about how health disparities can make certain populations much more vulnerable during outbreaks.
Yeah, we saw that with COVID. Marginalized communities were often hit the hardest.
Exactly. So addressing those inequities, that's a crucial part of building real resilience.
So public health infrastructure is key. But what about us as individuals? What can we do to protect ourselves in our communities?
Well, those basic preventive measures we've been talking about, they're still so important. Washing our hands, staying home when we're sick, covering our coughs. They might seem simple, but they really do work.
It's funny how those simple things sometimes get overlooked. But beyond that, is there anything else we can do to, boost our resilience, like on the immunity front?
One of the articles you sent, it talked about how a healthy lifestyle can actually strengthen your immune system, so you're less likely to get sick in the first place. Things like eating a balanced diet, getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, managing stress.
So it's not just about avoiding germs, it's about creating an environment where your body can thrive.
Exactly. It's about giving your immune system the tools it needs to do its job.
And what about staying informed? There's so much information out there these days. Sometimes it's hard to know what to believe.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It can be really tough to navigate all that information, especially during an outbreak. That's why it's so important to stick to credible sources like public health agencies, reputable medical organizations.
So being careful about what we read and share online, and maybe taking a break from social media every now and then.
Yeah, sometimes that's the best thing you can do. It's easy to get caught up in all the fear and anxiety that spreads online. Taking a step back, focusing on those reliable sources, that can really help.
So big picture, getting ready for a future with, maybe more outbreaks like HMPV. It involves a lot of different things. We need strong public health systems, individual responsibility, and a good dose of media literacy.
I think that's a great way to put it. And I think it's important to remember that building resilience, it's an ongoing process, right? It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah, it's about constantly learning, adapting, and working together to create a healthier future for everyone.
Exactly. And I think this deep dive has really shown how much we can learn from each other by sharing information, by sharing perspectives. We can build a more resilient future together.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.